realtors. And we will go through those questions. You'll have 90 seconds to respond, and then you can ask for another 30-second follow-up, or I might direct a question to follow up and have you with a 30-second follow-up. Then you have a minute to close. Those three persons right there on the front, those three young people are the very important people to keep you on time. So we'll start with candidates introducing themselves. Vera, we'll start with you since you're closest to my right.
Hi, my name is Vera Elwood, and I am running for City Council in the Ward 2 special election. I am a librarian, I am a parent, and I have lived in Columbia for a decade now. I am proud to call this community my home, and I would love to take the honor of being able to serve the community further. I've already been serving Columbia for a few years. I've been working on city boards and commissions for 2 years now, as well as many years of public service through local organizations, local nonprofits, and working as a librarian here in the community. I'm running on a platform of a Columbia for all. So I'm looking at a foundation for all, safety for all, and opportunity for all. What that really means is making sure that with a foundation for all, we have access to revitalizing and expanding our public infrastructure, and knowing that we cannot do that if we do not have our city departments fully staffed. We have incredibly passionate, capable people working at the city level that want to be able to do their jobs, that want to be able to expand services, and simply do not have the capacity to do so. In looking at safety for all, I have a particular focus on traffic safety, looking at Vision Zero with zero traffic deaths through Vision Zero and the Complete Streets project, and also looking at making sure our community remains walkable, bikeable, and becomes even more accessible for our friends and neighbors who use all modes of transport and don't want to have to drive their car to work every single day. With opportunity for all, that's where it comes into play to make sure we are advocating for all of our neighbors here in Columbia, and also making sure that Columbia's money is staying in Columbia, and that we are prioritizing local labor, local workers, local businesses by removing unnecessary and inefficient outsourcing from the city budget. I believe that with my experience in city government, my knowledge of the community, and my true passion for public service, I would be the best candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken, your opening comments, please. 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. My name is Ken Rice, and I'm hoping to support the Ward 4 by being your city council person. And I came into wanting to be the city council person, first of all, by Lisa Meyer, who was the prior council person, called me up right before she was going to step down due to health reasons, and asked me to fill her seat. So I was beyond honored with the request, and I said yes, I'd love to do it, because me and my wife moved here 3.5 years ago, and we love Columbia, and specifically we love Ward 2. We love being in the trails. We love being in the parks. We love the people. We love the north. We love the south. It's such a unique ward compared to the other wards that are out there. So we really love it. A little bit about me. You know, I was a only child, and I was adopted by a homemaker and an aircraft mechanic who was a union aircraft mechanic. I graduated high school with honors in New York. I went to Florida State University and St. Petersburg College, where I started journalism. After graduating, I ended up serving in the U.S. Army. I was in the 25th Infantry Division out of Hawaii, serving as a forward observer, and then followed that by being a nuclear, biological, and chemical officer during the Gulf War. Right now, my career spans over 35 years in the restaurant industry, 25 of them in executive level positions. I currently serve as the Chief Operating Officer for Pickleman's Franchising LLC. I have a wife, Rebecca. We've been married for 17 years, have a blended family of 5 children, and for over 9 years served on the executive committee and board for Spalding for Children, a Michigan-based nonprofit. I also serve as a deacon, head of finance, and the Sunday school director at my local church. I believe these diverse experiences have shaped me into a leader who understands the importance of community, service, and resilience, and I'm ready to bring these qualities to Ward 2.
Thank you both. Now we're going to start into some questions. I'm going to start with one that was provided by the Board of Realtors. Lisa Meyer, who is the most recent Ward 2 councilwoman, she is here, and I appreciate her being here. And this question really, we'll start with you, Vera Elwood. So you would succeed her, you would take her place. What similarities would your constituents expect to see in you that she took to the job?
I think that's an incredible question to start with. Thank you so much. I do think that there would be quite a few similarities between me and Lisa. I think one of the joys for whoever gets to step into this position is that we would get to step into seeing the outcome of projects that she fought and advocated for. I have been particularly joyous in my time on the Commission for Cultural Affairs to get to see the progress of the pollinator project that she pushed for in Ward 2 and the public art that will be going up to beautify that space even further. I think that that advocacy for our friends and neighbors is a huge part of what I hope to bring to my time on City Council.
Same question to you, Ken Rice. If you are elected, you will succeed Lisa Meyer. What would the constituents see in you that were similarities to what she took to the job?
I think there'd be very many similarities. One of them is the fact that she cares to talk to everybody in the ward. She wants to be part of it. She truly believes in the nonpartisan of a nonpartisan election. She doesn't align herself with certain groups and others. She goes out and talks to everyone, and she listens, and she listens, and she listens. I will do the same. When it comes to being out there, when I see the budget and it doesn't make sense, and you can't quantify that it's making sense, I'm going to stand up and say, no, this doesn't make sense. I'll vote the values and the experience that I have. I also believe that, she did a great job with the art boxes, to Vera's point, and the pollinator projects. Those are things that, I think were a compromise between many of the council people and working together. Lisa worked together with people. That's how we get things accomplished. I will work together with people as well. Thank you.
Ken Rice, you'll get the first one to answer this. And while we're talking about Ward 2 and who's represented that ward on the city council, I went back and I looked, and some of the names that have been Ward 2 council persons: Marianne McCullum, who went on to be a mayor; Jim Lovelace; Chris Yonku, who for many years held Ward 2; Michael Trapp, not that many years ago; Don Mosby. Those are names that for some of us who have lived here for a while resonate as Columbians. You've lived here less than 4 years. I think you went to school here and then came back and have been here less than 6 now, right? According to your bio that you posted online.
Thinking about the math, I think that would be correct. I think it's 6 or 7.
So
now.
There are people who have lived here 10, 15, 20 years who feel like they are still treated as newcomers. You want to be Ward 2 council person, both of you 6 or less years in Columbia. Ken Rice, what gives you the audacity to think that you can represent Columbia as a newcomer like that?
That's a great question, David. And I'll tell you, people ask that all the time. Well, I don't feel like I've been here 3.5 years. When me and my wife moved here, we knew that we wanted to be part of this community. Especially, I'll tell you, I had the pleasure to run for school board. And it was such a eye-opening experience to get to meet the diversity of people, the diversity of experiences, and to really get to know the community better. And what it says to me is, hey, this is a place I always want to be. And I don't think you have to be someplace 25 years to be part of it. You can be part of a community by just being with the community. And I've been with the community. I've sat at Worley Street Roundtable. I sat with Race Matters Friends. I sit with many of the other groups that are out there of a diverse culture and nature that make up our community. And I learn about them, and I'm part of the groups that are here, and I'm accepted. And I intend to do that same thing. So my audacity is, I'm part of the community. I don't need to be here 10 years or 20 or whatever. Thank you very much.
Vera Elwood, same question to you. I can repeat it if you'd like for me to.
I think I've got it, but thank you. First of all, what gives you the audacity is just about my favorite question I've ever been asked. And I hope you continue to ask every person running for elected office from here on out, because we should absolutely explain ourselves. So those names that you mentioned, you are correct. Many people who have served Ward 2 are names and faces that people think of when they think of Columbia. Probably the most starstruck I have been on this campaign was when I got to meet and talk to Mary Ann McCollum for a very long time about her time not only serving as the first female city council member in Columbia's history, but then serving as the first female mayor. And she did all of that from Ward 2. I'm honored to have the endorsements of three previous Ward 2 city council members, including Mike Trapp, who you mentioned, also Andrea Weiner and Rachel Proffitt, now Rachel Wolpert. They believe that in my time here in Columbia, I have proven my dedication to Ward 2. I have proven that I have the experience and knowledge to run in this position. I am that classic person who came to Columbia for college and fell in love with the town. I am unique in that in my 4 years at Mizzou, I spent more time off of campus than I did on campus. That's how I started getting involved in local office. That's how I started getting involved in local politics. I ran for my first commission the day after I graduated from college. So I've been deeply invested even as an undergrad.
We're going to do a 30-second follow-up for this. And Ken Rice, you're first. I also looked, and Ward 2 has had, I think, 3 city council persons since 2022. How would you say, or what would you say to the ward to say, I'm here to bring some stability to this so that you can get used to? I mean, I would love to go out to Ward 2 right now and do a survey and say, who's your council person? I'm going to guess there's a pretty high percentage that have no idea.
Well, one of the things I truly believe in, and this is specific to Ward 2, but Columbia as a whole, we need to get our common citizens more involved in our city. We need to get out there. And how that happens is I need to get out there and be in the places that they are. I need to be in their neighborhoods. I've already started doing town halls. I've had 2 town halls. I had it on Zoom. I've invited people to those. I've been out in their communities and having coffee with people in our community. I've been with leaders of the community, talking to them. I will continue to bring myself to them to meet them where they are. And that's how I can get them to know me and also understand that my wife and I are going nowhere and they can trust that I'm going to be their representative as long as they're willing to vote me back in.
Vera Elwood, same question to you. 3 different council persons representing Ward 2 since 2022. How would you tell the constituents of that ward that we're going to add some stability now to the city council chair for that ward?
I think a desire for stability is one of the number one things that I've heard when I've been knocking on doors and talking to my neighbors. People want to know who their city council person is. They are tired of voting in elections for city council members. We've had wonderful representation, and through no fault of their own, there's been a lot of turnover in recent years. I am in Columbia to stay, and I am in city government for as long as my constituents will have me. When I came to Columbia, I knew I wanted to raise a family here, and I am.
Vera Elwood, you'll be first on this question. Back to from the list of the Board of Realtors. The city is predicting a financial crunch. Personnel costs have increased in recent years. So a question about if you think the city's spending trajectory is sustainable, and what budget changes would you push for?
Great question. Thank you. I think that the budget crisis is going to be top of mind for whoever takes this position. We know that we are stepping into a budget deficit. We know that that budget is going to be voted on before the Ward 2 council person steps into the position. And so we will be walking into the decisions that have already been made. I think that one of the first things that we need to be looking at with the budget is where we are taking our money and spending it outside of our city. We need to be looking at outsourcing. Right now, we are spending $3.8 million in outsourcing our fleet maintenance. That is not only paying for workers that do not live in, are not devoted to the city of Columbia, we also have to pay extra to take the vehicles, get them to another location so they can be worked on and maintained. It is significantly more expensive than if we were working on these vehicles here in Columbia. It also means that we are taking that knowledge base of working on our own vehicles. It means that we are taking that independence of being able to fix our own problems as a community and making that leave Columbia. We are removing work opportunities, we are removing money, we're removing knowledge, and we're making our community more reliant on other people. I want to do a full audit of all of our outsourcing projects as soon as I step into office, see where those opportunities are to keep our money in Columbia and end up reducing our costs.
Ken Rice, same question to you. City's predicting a financial crunch as personnel costs have increased in recent years. Do you think that spending trajectory is sustainable, and what budget changes would you push for?
Well, it's absolutely not sustainable. In fact, it's very concerning. And while I'd like to think that 3.8 million and changing that would help, that's a very much of a drop in the bucket into a multi-million-dollar budget. What we need to do is we need to go back and look at every line item on the budget. And yes, I've been sitting there. I have 400 pages at my house, all printed out and highlighting it and going line by line, because how we have to do it is not like the city manager is suggesting and saying 3% across the board. We have to look at every program. We don't need to take a sledgehammer to the budget. We need to take a scalpel. And then we need to figure out what we don't need and what we do need. And we have to prioritize those things that we do need. And then we're going to have to make the courage to make the tough decisions and say, is this an essential thing that we need? Or is this something that's non-essential right now? We have to fund essential projects. We cannot continue deficit spending if we want to be successful as a city.
A follow-up, sort of along the same line, dealing with the finance of the city and the budget. So what is your tolerance for budget study? And we'll start with you, Vera Elwood, and experiences that you've had working with a large budget.
Absolutely. I've been working with large budgets for honestly as long as I have been in libraries. My first job in libraries was serving as the young adult librarian for the Hays, Kansas Public Library. That is a multi-million-dollar library that I was on the executive administrative team. All of the budget decisions were run through the full team. Every year we would sit down and go through the budget with a scalpel, exactly like you were talking about, and go line by line. And that meant sometimes we would have to redistribute salaries. That meant putting a cap on my own salary so that I could ensure that my employees, that are lowest paid workers, got an increase that year so they could afford to live in the city that they were serving. I do think that the difference in my experience working with budgets is that all of my budget experience has been in governmental institutions, so city libraries, public libraries, and the University of Missouri Library.
Ken Rice, you already started to answer this question a moment ago, but your tolerance for budget study and your experience with large budgets.
Well, my tolerance is it's the one. If it's not the first thing, it's the first. Right after that, the next thing that needs to be done. The budget has to get fixed. You can't run a city, a business, a household, and overspend your money. You have got to be able to manage the budget in a way that keeps us safe. And that means that we have to be able to understand how budgets go. You asked my experience doing this. I have over 35 years of managing budgets of over anywhere from 55 million to over $100 million in budgets. I've managed a nonprofit agency budgets with a spending of $10 million a year with grants and such. So my experience is very good with it. I took our company through the recession in 2008 and made sure that all my people were still hired, all my people were safe, and that we were still profitable at the end of the day.
I'm going to do a follow-up to the follow-up. Barry, you're close and you're first on this one also. So give us a specific, just one, of where you would cut. The city likes to advertise that it has raised salaries of its workers to a high level, very competitive now. And that is the bulk of what the cost is for running the city, would be to pay its employees. So where would you find money to save money so that they could continue to be paid? And you've also said full employment. I mean, you want everybody that has every position to be filled in the city departments.
Absolutely. Looking at outsourcing, that's the number one thing I would like to cut. That 3.8 million, that is one outsourcing project we currently have. There are a ton of outsourcing projects in the city budget. We can look at getting those significantly cheaper. We can look at reducing those costs, keeping them in-house. And that would be the first thing I would look at cutting.
Ken Rice, same question to you, a specific, they want to pay the employees well, and the city likes that and advertises that. So what are you seeing specifically that you would say, okay, this can be on the line to be cut?
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing I saw was the Office of Sustainability added 6 new positions. I would have asked that the city manager provide a need for what happens with those 6 positions. Tell me, if we didn't fill those positions when we didn't have the money to fill them, what would have happened a year from now? So that would be one area just off the bat. And my concern with when I hear the 3.8 million, we still have to spend quite a bit of money to fund those projects that are outsourced. So maybe we save 800,000. That's not going to fix our budget crisis.
Ken Rice, this question for you, and it comes from the Board of Realtors. This is a Board of Realty forum, so it makes great sense that this question is one that's asked. City Council is going to consider updates to the building code. The city delayed implementing the 2021 energy code provisions due to the added cost to new homes. City staff say the 2024 energy code will raise home construction costs by $8,000 to $12,000, resulting in only about $10 in monthly utility savings, as home prices in Columbia grow faster than the national average. Should the city delay adopting the energy code again?
Absolutely. I've said that I believe in things like solar, things like wind, all the different things that are sustainability, but I've never seen that they pay for themselves. For my own house, for example, it would take 20 years to get a return on investment for putting solar in. You don't get that much of a bang for your buck over it. It does help the climate. Absolutely. And that's great. But you have to have money to be able to pay for those type of things. So with that said, I would absolutely say that one of our biggest issues in Ward 2 specifically is affordable housing, and that does not help that problem.
All right, Vera Elwood, same question. Hope I don't have to read the whole thing again.
No, you're okay. I took some notes. I do support the 2024 energy codes and the energy efficiency standards. I believe that those not only help our residents, help the people in the homes with their utility bills. I believe that it helps our environment and our climate overall, and that these are changes that we need to be on the forefront of. I trust the Climate and Energy Commission here in Columbia when they suggested not adopting the entire international standards, but making some specific changes to understand the differences that we see here in Columbia, and to understand our unique situation that we're living in Columbia. So I would recommend our City Commission on Climate and Energy's recommendations.
Let's move on to another question. Vera Elwood, you're first on this one. There's been some concern in the community regarding boards and commissions. How can the city attract more qualified people to those?
It's a great question. Like I said, I've served on boards and commissions for 2 years now, and I have seen how long some of our spots sit open. I have seen that when we finally have applicants for those positions, it's not so much a question of who is the most qualified. It is a question of, well, we got 3 applications and we have 4 openings, and so I guess we are taking all 3. And now all of those people I have worked with have been incredible, wonderful, dedicated, passionate advocates for their area of expertise, but we deserve to have a higher standard for our boards and commissions. The number one thing we need to be doing is advertising out those positions better. Right now, they go up on the board and commission's vacancies page. If you don't know to be looking for it, you're not looking for it. The number of disability advocates I find in this community who have no idea the Disabilities Commission even exists is staggering. through those personal connections, through just talking to people and saying, hey, are you aware that this board exists? Are you aware that these positions are open? We have gotten all but one position filled. And at the last at the last city council meeting where they appointed people to the Disabilities Commission, it was actually competitive to the point where we had applicants to turn away, and every single one of those applicants was fully qualified. We have had to undergo that project of advertising and marketing our positions entirely on our own as a commission. We've not had the support from the city on that, and all of the boards and commissions deserve to have that support.
Ken Rice, same question to you. How can the city attract more qualified people to boards and commissions?
Well, I think that's it seems like an easy question, but it's a tough one because a lot of people aren't coming to them. And I think you have to look at two things. One, I think we do need to get the word out more. We do have to advertise more. But I also think that, as council people, as we get to know our residents, we go out and personally get to know who the leaders in that ward are, and personally go to them and say, hey, I'd love to see you part of this board. We also have a large group of people that are 65 and older that are retired right now. I think there's a source that we can go to and say, hey, we'd love to have your expertise helping the city become successful. The other thing that I think is important is I've talked to some people that have been on the boards and commissions. And unfortunately, there are some boards and commissions. Some are very good, and I think the disability is listened to. Some tell me, I don't sit there because they don't listen to me. The council could care less what we say. So if we have a nonchalant attitude to the advice we're given by the council or by the boards and commissions, why would they want to spend their time and their efforts to come out and sit with it?
Ken Rice, you're first on this one. And I think you could say this about any of the wards, the 6 wards in Columbia, but we're looking at Ward 2. And if you look at the boundaries of Ward 2, it really is amazing. And I think you referred to that. You go from the east on Oakland Gravel Road all the way over to the west to Strawn Park.
Yes.
South would be West Broadway, and then it kind of jumps up to I-70. North, who knows what's going on. I mean, it's just all kind of jumbled up there.
I-70 is having its issues with all the construction going on there. You can't even get off on it.
So my question to you is, how do you define Ward 2? Tell me what you're learning about Ward 2.
Well, I'm learning that it's a diverse group of people. You have the north part that has a strong working class and even some working poor that are in that area that can be helpful. And the big problem that they have is there's no transportation going out to that part of the ward to help them out. The southern part of the ward is a little bit more affluent, and it's a little bit different lifestyle in those. We've got a mix of older people, younger people throughout the ward. So it's I would say, if not the most, I would say it's the most diverse ward that is out there at this point, though many of them are diverse, but it has such a diversity in the ward.
Vera Elwood, same question to you. How do you define Ward 2 and what you're learning about it through your campaign?
One of the first things that I heard when I announced my candidacy was Ward 2 is the ward that works for us so Columbia can work. And that is so true. Ward 2 is full of working families. It is full of city employees. It is full of police officers. It is full of firefighters. It is full of the people who are making Columbia the community that we love. I've also found that we have a really high number of veterans in our ward. We have a really high number of single parent families. We have a high number of low income families and middle and high income families. But what I've really found in Ward 2 is that we are a deeply compassionate, caring, and involved ward. My favorite thing that I have heard on the doors as I've been talking to my neighbors is anything for a neighbor. I can just knock on the door and say, hey, I live down the road, and they'll say anything for a neighbor. They won't even know what I'm talking about. They might run and try to grab me a cup of sugar. I've talked to people who are already actively involved on their boards and commissions. I've talked to people who have already read every single news article, watched every single broadcast that has come out about this race because they care so deeply about their community that they want to stay informed and engaged. We have an incredible ward in Ward 2.
We'll stay with you, and this is a separate question, but it is related very much to what you both just talked about. I would predict, and I haven't seen this from the county clerk, that I'm not sure what the percentage of voters are going to be in August. Some of us were surprised to get a sample ballot. I'm not in Ward 2. It's got one thing on it, and I think many of us would be hard pressed to define what that thing is. It's clearer when you have a vote between two people for a council person in a ward, but I would still contend that a small percentage of that ward is going to vote. So what is your strategy in campaigning to decide who to try to reach? You try to reach 1,000 people and say that's going to be enough to win, 800 people, 2,000 people? What's your strategy for campaigning?
We have already knocked over 4,000 doors in Ward 2. We are trying to reach as many voters as possible. We're not trying to limit ourselves. Yes, a special election is going to have incredibly low turnout, or it typically has low turnout. But like I said, Ward 2, we are active, we are engaged, we are involved, we care deeply about our community. We see the impact that city council decisions have on our neighbors and on our neighborhoods. The voters that we are talking to, as soon as they find out that the election is happening, as soon as they are reminded that that vote is on August 5th, it's not a question of, oh, well, I don't vote in local elections, I don't care about that. We haven't seen that at all. It has been entirely, well, now that I know, now that I am aware, I will make sure that I am voting. What I would love to see is that this special election sets a record. I want record turnout. I want to see an incredible number of our neighbors voting in the special election. But you're right, turnout is one of the biggest factors in this election.
Ken Rice, the question for you. What's your strategy to say, I need to do this in order to win this election that probably won't have a big turnout?
Well, our strategy is to knock as many doors as we can, to talk to as many people as we can, because we have to turn out the vote. You're right, though. If we look at the last election that came out, there was almost $300,000 spent between everyone that went. The thought was that was going to turn out more people, and only 24% came out for an April election with a mayor race. It was sad. One of my commitments is going to be going forward is, how can we get our neighbors, everybody, whether I win or lose, we have to get the communities more involved to understand that these local elections mean so much to you. Everyone's so focused on the national and on the state. We need to let them know that really what affects their lives a lot is what happens at the city.
This will be a follow-up question to what I just asked, and parts of me will be surprised if either one of you answered this, but do you have strategists? Do you have people that are campaign managers working with you? Just yes or no? No. Vera?
I have a support team.
So my question, what I really want to ask is, in your private contemplation behind closed doors, what do you think it'll take number-wise to win this election? You can just say you don't care to answer.
I think in a special election, it is hard to predict. We have run a whole lot of numbers. I don't know that I have a specific number that I'm looking at.
But a whole lot of them. You don't want to share one of those numbers. You don't have to. Ken Rice, how about you? What's it going to take number-wise to win this?
Well, I don't horse race. I don't bet. I'm not a gambler. So, I could tell you anything, and, everyone and anyone, you talk to anyone in this room and they'd have a different number for you. So I have no idea what the number is going to be. It's going to be what turns out. We'll find out on August 15th, and then we'll find out somebody's going to get 51 and someone's not, or more. So,
What's the date of the election?
August 5th.
5th. Let's go, Ken, on this one, and this stays with the second ward focus. The second ward has seen less growth and development in residential and retail north of I-70. How would you spur economic growth in the second ward to keep up with the rest of the city?
Well, I think we got to attract a couple of things. We need to attract more businesses to the second ward. I think we need to look at, especially up north. I think we need to look at getting some more what do you call, grocery stores up there. I think there's an opportunity for having more groceries in that area. I think we need to look at the housing, and we need to we need to get together with developers and say, what do we need to do? Let's see, how can we incentivize you to build more, to do more, and to make it worth their while to do it. Well, also we want to solve the affordable housing problem, and we say, okay, hey, what can we do to get you to do multi-use houses, not just single unit type of situations? What can we do to bring more people, more business into this area and work together with the community? Because that's the way we solve these problems. We don't solve them by working in a echo chamber and just listening to ourselves. We solve problems by getting together with the pertinent people in the community and learning from each other and saying, how do we solve this problem? Because when we solve it, it solves it for everybody.
Vera Elwood, same question. Second Ward has seen less growth and development in residential and retail north of I-70. How would you spur economic growth in the Second Ward to keep up with the rest of the city?
You're absolutely right. North of I-70 has seen a real stagnation in development. I know because that's the part of Ward 2 that I live in. So it touches very close to home for me. I think the number one thing that comes to mind for me for encouraging more development is making sure that we have infrastructure that is worth developing on, that is capable of handling more development. If our roads are falling apart, if our sidewalks are crumbling, if we do not have the sewer systems, the water to handle development, we're not going to get development in the first place. But the number one thing that comes to mind, particularly for moving businesses out there, is our public transit. Right now, the parts of Ward 2 that are most prime for development do not have public transit, so they do not have a way for people to get there to use those business opportunities. We are truly lacking on public transit in Ward 2, both our bus systems, with the short staffing of paratransit right now. And so through making sure that our buses are working with a full capacity of staff, that will open us up to the opportunity of potentially offering more bus routes, having them more convenient locations, having them at more reliable times, more frequent, which can then spur more development in the ward.
Follow up, and Ken Rice, first on this, 30 seconds. So how do you make the transit more used? And I didn't phrase that well at all, but how do you make public transit attractive for people?
Well, you got to get it to them. So you got to get it to them. Number one, it can't run every 90 minutes. Me and my son took the bus route, and to do one bus route around town, we took the red bus route, and we missed the bus. So we had to wait almost an hour and 15 minutes to catch the next bus. Then we had to turn around, and it took us 3 hours to do the whole route. Nobody is going to ride the buses when it's like that. It's got to be accessible. It's got to be timely. And I think we need to look outside the box at other like microtransit opportunities.
Vera Elwood, same question.
I relied on the bus exclusively for a year while I was an undergraduate. I lived in an apartment that happened to be right on a bus route. I used it to get to school. I used it to get to grocery shopping. I used it to do eating out and my fun activities throughout the community. I know that it can be a functional, reliable, safe, easy system to use. I even got a car during that year and continued to rely on the bus because I simply preferred it. The difference was this was back in 2011, 2012, and the bus was more frequent and had larger routes.
Another follow-up to this. We talked just a few moments ago about the financial crunch that the city is in. So this is a short question, hopefully for a short answer on a complicated answer. Ken, you're first on this. How do we pay for that? Okay. What you both just said.
Well, two things. One, existing structure. I think we have an opportunity. The airport is free. Put a charge on the airport parking. Number two, start charging a reasonable fee to ride the bus. Number three, look into transport versus buying big buses, which have to have staffed by people that have to have a certain type of driver's license. You can have these smaller transit like vans, and these people it's an Uber-like system. and it's much more economical, and it's been done in many cities very successfully. Puts more people to work and saves money.
Barry Elwood, same question. How are you going to pay for better transportation?
The first answer is simply filling the open positions. Once we have a fully staffed department, the buses can run more frequently. We see that with paratransit, where we are turning down rides due to staffing inefficient or not having full staffing. When it comes to actually finding the money in the budget for potential expansions in the future, part of it is about prioritizing what we are paying for. We've seen in recent city council budget meetings that infrastructure piece is at the top of everyone's mind. It is a priority, and we need to make sure that the budget reflects that.
Barry Elwood's question for you. Your first, some past city council members and planning and zoning commissioners thought that regulating short-term rentals would help ease the housing crisis. That hasn't happened. So how do you fix the housing crisis?
Fix the housing crisis in 60 seconds, 90
You got
seconds.
90.
That's a great question. You are absolutely right that the housing crisis is going to be coming for Columbia fast, and Ward 2 is going to be feeling it hard. We know from the 2024 Boone County and City of Columbia housing study that access to housing for all income levels is incredibly low, but particularly low for our low-income families, our first-time home buyers. We know from the Boone County master plan that Boone County is going to need 30,000 new housing developments in the next 20 years in order to account for our population growth. And we know that the vast majority of those houses are going to be needed here in Columbia. What I would like to see is a focus on gentle density and mixed density projects. I want to see projects where we are seeing single family, multifamily, and apartment complexes built together in a way where they can be in community with each other, they can be in neighborhood together. It is aesthetically pleasing, and it is serving everyone in that community. I also think making sure that we have incentive projects for things like first-time home buyers, for projects that will make that first purchase, that first housing purchase, more affordable and accessible.
All right, Ken Rice, same question to you. I'll just get to the question part. What do you do to fix the housing crisis?
Well, again, I appreciate the 90 seconds to answer that question. So when it comes to the housing crisis, it's a big problem, and we have to have courage. We're going to have to stand up and say, we're going to have to make some different decisions in how we go forward with that. We're going to look, we've got about 2/3 of the homeowners as single homeowners, about another third that rent. We may be uncomfortable. We're going to have to look at things like zoning differently. So we're, the single use and the multi-use type of homes are going to have to be looked at. And what do we do that? And who do we do that with? We're going to have to do that with our developers. We've got to partner with our developers and say, hey, what do we need to do? And one of the things that we may need to look at is, and this is something that people haven't wanted to, is the fee structure is ridiculous. The fee, how it goes, continues to get more and more, and it's longer and longer to build. We need to make it easier to pay the fees, streamline the process, and look and see, do we need, we certainly don't need more fees, because the people who are going to build it are the developers. So let's work with them to create this more, to create more housing and more affordable housing as we go forward.
Follow up. You're talking to a lot of realtors here. This is the Board of Realtors Forum. So they want to see houses that they're selling sell for a high price. I want to see a house that I'm buying be a lower price. So you've got that tension that always exists there. I guess what I'm asking is, would you pledge as a city council person, or would you, I should say, how important do you think it would be in light of this discussion, and Vera, you're first on this, to say, yeah, I'll meet with the Board of Realtors and I'll sit down and I'll listen to what they tell me about what they see as a solution to the housing crisis here?
Absolutely, I would want to meet with the Board of Realtors. One of the first things you learn as a librarian is that you're not expected to know everything. You're expected to know where to find the answers. That means relying on experts. That means seeking out research. That means making sure that you are actively engaged in the process of gaining new knowledge every single day. So if I have questions about housing, if housing projects are coming down the line on the docket, if I just see this as a problem I want to fix in my community, which I do, I want to talk to the board of realtors. I want to talk to current homeowners. I want to talk to people who haven't been able to afford a home before. I want to talk to everyone involved.
Ken Rice, same question to you.
I think I've answered it a few times. I've said that we need to get together with the board of realtors and developers and, make sure that we collaborate together, because that's the only way to solve problems.
Ken Rice, first answer to this one. Give me one thing the city government does well.
One thing the city government does well. I think that they did well on the on choosing to have the Office for Violence Prevention. I think that they looked outside the box and came up with a unique solution to try to help, with the policing crisis, with the violence that happens in this town. I've got a chance to meet with DeMarcus Brown on, probably a half a dozen times now. And I am just intrigued. And in fact, I told him whether I win or lose this election, I want to help him with his crusade to help slow down the violence in this town. I think he has the answer. So I applaud the city council for having the foresight to bring him on and his team.
Vera Elwood, same question to you. What one thing does the city government do well?
I think the city government does a great job at listening to constituents. I think we need to be doing a little better at actively seeking that input, at going further to meet constituents where they are rather than waiting for them to come to us. But when people do come to the city with a problem, when they raise red flags, like we just saw with the conversation about the DEI plan, once constituents were raising flags about it, we're saying this is not what we want to see from the city. I think the city did a good job of listening to that and putting that feedback into place.
Vera, you're first on this one. Now that the Opportunity Campus construction is well underway, do you support the city's decision to build that campus? And how should the Opportunity Campus be funded in the long term?
I absolutely support the decision to build the Opportunity Campus. I think it is so important not only to have services for our unhoused neighbors, but to have them in a centralized location so that we are not expecting people who are already more likely to not have access to transportation to have to go to 3 or 4 different locations around the city, all in the span of one day, just to receive the services, the food, the housing that they need that night. I think the Opportunity Campus is going to be an incredible, opportunity for Columbia. In terms of in terms of funding in the long run, my hope is that we will continue to partner with the organizations that came together to make this happen in the first place, to see that funding. I know that the city gave $3.1 million of our COVID funding for the development of the project. I know that there are donors in place for the continued services. Some of the services like Turning Point, Room at the Inn, and Loaves and Fishes are helping pay into the program. Of course, the Voluntary Action Center. And that I hope we can continue to rely on those nonprofits and on those people who are already doing the wonderful work for this community to see it continue to grow and thrive in the future.
Ken, same question. The Opportunity Campus construction well underway. Do you support the decision to build the campus, and how should it be funded in the long term?
I definitely support the decision to build the campus. I think centralizing services is essential. We can't have, it's hard enough. You have people that are unhoused that need services, have to drive. Well, they don't have cars. And we already saw that the bus takes 90 minutes to hop on. So trying to get to all the services now is unbelievably difficult and doesn't serve the community or the people well. I think it's going to be a good thing that we have those services combined. I think that we'll be able to help more people. We'll be able to understand what the needs of those people are, and hopefully help some more people go from unhoused to housed, or different ways, or what they were talking about at council. You said another thing. They're considering, maybe helping people that have a relative or somewhere to go outside of Columbia back to where they are, where they have a support network. So I think that's going to be a positive. And I think when it comes to funding, we really need to push and help that it continues to stay as a private funded situation. We really don't want to get into the, funding that thing from the city standpoint, but I think the city can help make sure that people are aware of it and help the, the nonprofits raise money towards that end.
We're going to start with you on this answer, Ken, and that is, I'm asking not your official position as a council person, if you held that position, but your personal reaction when you see persons at intersections panhandling.
My first thing is empathy. I feel, I'm drawn that, what a horrible situation that person is in to be in that situation. And I wish they weren't. But it's a very complicated matter because, I'll tell you, our church, what we do is we make little packets out that have like essentials in there, like a little food voucher, a little just everyday toothbrush, toothpaste, socks, different things. And we've gone, and some of them are like, oh, thank you very much. Other of them, I will say, my wife handed one, and the guy called her the C word and threw it at her and told her, I want money, B. And so that's frustrating. And it's a very tough situation. I also worry about them because as I'm driving, I don't want to hit them. I really don't. I don't want to hit anyone. Even people that, sometimes they're the Shriners, they're out in the middle. I don't like that because they're running around in the middle of traffic. I don't think it's safe. So that's me from a personal standpoint of how I see it.
Same question to you, Vera.
I think with panhandling, again, my first response is always empathy. It is always caring and compassion and love. I also have handed out, I try to have water bottles in my car. I try to have hot hands in the summer. I do also sometimes give money because hot hands and gloves and toothbrushes can't help someone buy a house, can't help someone actually get off the street, get connected to services, and get the things that they need. I've been involved in working with the unhoused population. The whole time that I've been working in libraries, you will often find that the unhoused population in any community will find their way into a library. I've been trained in working with them with love and compassion. And more recently, back in 2018, 2019, Daniel Boone Regional Library hosted a viewing of the movie The Public. It's an Emilio Estevez film about the kind of things that we have seen in public libraries with the unhoused population. They had a Q&A afterwards with some of the people in the community who are actively working in homeless outreach, unhoused outreach. And one of the pieces of advice that they offered at the very end, which always sticks with me, is if what you are really caring about is making sure that you are helping your neighbors, that you are helping people in your community and not like panhandlers that are just moving from community to community, step a little further from I-70. So if you're seeing someone downtown asking for money, that is your neighbor. If you are seeing someone right on the side of I-70, that might be a little bit different. But that tip came from Turning Point.
Knowing what you just answered, Ken, I'm going to come to you real quick, and this is unfair. You've already said 90 seconds isn't enough time, both of you, to answer really complicated questions. But I'm trying to simplify this on the unhoused community. What one idea have you come across that you say, you know what, I'd like for us to try this? Just one thought.
The veterans in this, so I'm a veteran and I work with veterans, and I know people, there is no reason in this city, in this state, in this country for a veteran ever to be unhoused. There is plenty of support. We need to figure out what the support that the veterans get so they don't have to be unhoused. A veteran that is unhoused makes that a choice. There is no reason. There is support services galore. I used to say that we should never have a veteran out on the street. The veterans that are on the street today are because they have made that choice. I don't know how to solve that part. I think that might be a mental health opportunity there. But the veterans are being taken care of. veterans can be. So I think we use that as a model to figure out how we can help others.
Vera Elwood, a question to you. One thing, an idea that has crossed your desk or your mind that might work to help the unhoused population?
So I'll say an idea that has worked in another community. I think that a lot of local government is looking at what other communities have done, what they have found to be successful. And in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the local government worked with a group called Housing First. And in a year where from 2023 to 2024, the national homeless population increased 20%. In that same calendar year, the Milwaukee homeless population decreased by 20%. So the same amount that we saw an increase at the national level, Milwaukee saw a decrease. And they did that through a two-pronged approach. The first approach was that the city government chose to take leadership over an issue because they recognized that not only were they the best ones, they were the most capable of doing it, but it was something that was directly affecting their constituents, directly affecting their population. The other piece was a housing first model. Just the other day, I volunteered over at Project Homeless Connect, which is a wonderful opportunity. Highly encourage everyone to volunteer with it. And we got to wear our bright red volunteer shirts, and across the back was a single sentence: the only solution to homelessness is housing. If we do not give people a place to live, then simply closing down encampments, throwing away their belongings, illegalizing panhandling, those things don't actually fix the overarching process, the overarching issue. So a combination of the city taking leadership and a housing first model.
I'm pushing the limit, but I'm going to do one more question. Just a quick answer to this. And this again shows you the diversity that a council person has to handle, because this is something that is kind of important to the people I know. On the scale or on the list of important things, Vera, you're first on this. Where does recycling and getting that back to working stand?
Incredibly important. And I was very excited to see last night announced that we do have a temporary solution for our plastics and metals, that they can now be put back on curbside in the blue bags.
Some plastics.
Some plastics and some metals.
As near as many as they used to.
Yes, as a temporary solution. Finding a long-term solution, and specifically finding a long-term solution that keeps recycling here in Columbia rather than shipping it off to another city where we don't necessarily know what is happening to those materials. We can't guarantee their safety along the way. There's a lot of opportunity for those materials to get polluted in the transition process, in the transportation process, and then not end up recyclable. Keeping it here in Columbia is incredibly important.
Ken Rice, I'm sorry. Ken Rice, same question to you. On the list of important matters that the city must deal with, where's recycling?
It's going to be dependent on where the people of my ward and where they think it is. And I'd say that in Columbia specifically and in the ward, recycling is a big thing. So it would be important to me, but I will tell you, it will never be more important than making sure we don't deficit spend. We cannot overspend money to just do recycling. What we have to do is concentrate on making sure that we're financially healthy, and then we can work on finance. If recycling is a big thing, it is big for me and my family. Yes, we're going to put it in there, but not at the stake of making the city financially in trouble.
Past time for closing comments. But nice. If you want to argue, you can argue. You got 60 seconds. And Ken, since you went second on the opening, you get first on the closing.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And I want to thank the Board of Realtors for inviting us today. It was a wonderful forum. And Dave, I always appreciate you moderating it. I wanted to talk about why I'm running. Let's talk more action. We've done a lot of things on the city council that we knew we had a problem. The infrastructure for, say, 2013, We knew that we had a problem with the power grid. 2015, we funded it. 2016, we put it on hold because some neighbors were concerned about it. What happened? It's still on hold today, and we haven't moved anywhere near the needle. The same thing in 2018 we did with a water tower. We are going to be in problems if we don't start acting on the things that we need to act with. Number two, being the people's voice. I need to be out there, and I'm going to listen, and listen. And then number three, I'm very concerned. I want to make sure that we have a very safe Ward 2 and have well-being as our big talking points when I go up and represent among council. Thank you.
All right, Vera Elwood, your closing statement, please.
I'm incredibly honored to be running for the role of city council. I believe that my experience in Columbia, my experience in public service in particular, and my knowledge of Columbia and how we function as a city make me qualified for the role. But I am beyond honored that so many local organizations have felt the same way and have been willing to endorse me. From LIUNA 955, which represents our city workers, to the Columbia Professional Firefighters Union, as well as our Daniel Boone Regional Library Workers United, and more recently, the Sierra Club and Abortion Action Missouri. There are people in the community who truly believe in my experience, knowledge, and priorities for the position. And I hope that by the end of this, you all will too. And I hope that I can count on your vote on August 5th. Thank you so much.
Some can vote early, but August 5th would be the last time to vote. If you're in Ward 2, Ken Rice and Vera Elwood are the candidates to take that post on the city council. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Board of Realtors, for doing this and for giving us opportunity to be educated about this election. We do appreciate that, everybody. We'll see you later. Enjoy the heat.
I know. I didn't let them grab it this time.
Yes.
I still don't know where it went. I don't know.